don't know how many times I've already said this in this vlog project, how many times I will say it going forward. When I first started making videos here on YouTube, it didn't appear in my mental game plan, my mental roadmap for these videos that I would end up in Deadwood, South Dakota. But here we are. My first time ever in the state of South Dakota. It's good to be here. It could be a lot colder. Today it was in the high 50s. I think in a couple days it'll be in the teens, in the single digits. Anyway, here we are at Cadillac Jack's gaming resort here in Deadwood, South Dakota. So I can't stress enough all the different reasons why it's a good idea to start some sort of a project, specifically some sort of a content creation project. You might have an idea of what will become of it. You might have a range of ideas. Maybe on one end, it's just a sort of personal diary for you. And on the other end, all of these other things that could potentially become of your channel or your social media accounts or your blog or what have you. I think everywhere in between and all the way over here on this end of the spectrum is a very reasonable and worthwhile reason to start a project. Having a personal diary of the things that you do so that either you or your loved ones can look back on years down the road. All these tools that make that very easy to create, I think are definitely worth considering and at least trying, at least giving it a shot. If it ends up anywhere along that spectrum, the results, then that's just a bonus. When I first had in mind the spectrum of things that could happen, like I said, Deadwood, South Dakota, wasn't really in here. 3 years later into this blog project, I'm here in a state that I've never been to before and learning about a town that I knew nothing about. Population 1,300 people. You might think that might make for some tough circumstances to put together a meetup game and to draw a crowd. But apparently there was some 55 people on the list, the interest list earlier today. If we can get 5 tables worth of people together, maybe even 6 tables. Apparently that's only been done once here at this casino before. I don't want to ramble on here for too long. I want to get down there and start playing with some of these folks that I've yet to meet, who like to watch poker vlogs, who like the game of poker, looking for a social fun night of poker. So I'm gonna hop in there. We're gonna play a range of mix of stakes here tonight. They play spread limit here, which means for the different stakes, there's a maximum bet amount. For example, I believe we're gonna play a 5-5 game where the maximum bet is $300. I believe we're also gonna play another 5-5 game where the maximum bet is $1,000. So in that game, the maximum bet shouldn't come into play as far as like limiting the amounts of betting that will happen compared to a no limit game. Anyway, I'm just kind of rambling here. I'm just filling in some time. Deadwood, South Dakota, we're here. Let's play poker.
It's so cold all over my arm. I don't wanna know that, babe. That heart is so cold all over my arm. I don't wanna know that, babe.
All right, guys, first semi-significant hand coming out of this 5-5 game with, I believe it's a 1K spread limit. That $1,000 cap's not gonna come into play all that often, if at all. Anyway, first interesting hand, there was an early position limp. We looked down at king, queen, offsuit, make it 20 to go, and we see 3 callers, including that limper. The flop comes king, 7-3 rainbow. Checks over to me, I bet half pot. and the player on my left calls, and the limper calls as well. Turn, I believe, is an offsuit 5, and when it checks over to me again, I decide to go for some pot control here. That 5 could complete some 2-pair hands, maybe some gut shots. Don't think I can get 3 streets of value with king queen anyway, so I check it and action checks all the way through. The river is an 8, which looks like a brick to me. The limper leaves out for $75. And I think we're just gonna have to call here. We could maybe beat some value hands like king jack, king 10. Not exactly sure if my opponent in this hand would bet those types of hands, seeing as I don't know anybody in these games yet. My first time here. So I toss in the call. I think it's pretty straightforward, especially for that price. Player on my left folds, but we get shown pocket 3s from the limper. So flop himself a set. At least we pot control the turn, and I think it's just gonna be pretty straightforward. I think we're gonna have to lose a little bit of money there no matter what. All right, getting back in there. Just came up to the room real quick. One of the players in the game requested to make a purchase. Money bands. Have I told you guys how perfect these get yours at favorableapparel.com. Okay, anyway, second reason was to just take a break, get away from the action for a very brief while. I'm about to run back downstairs, but yeah, the game I was in, the spread limit, the 5 to 200 spread limit game, was not going my way. There was a hand where I got caught in between a couple of raisers and re-raisers with ace queen of hearts. Person raised, I call, another person raises, initial raiser calls, I call again with ace queen of hearts. It's like it's a 4-bet pot, 200 and some dollars pre-flop. Heading to the flop, which comes all bricks for this ace queen of hearts. The player who had 3-bet jams all in, and we have to fold there, which is unfortunate because if we had gotten to see all 5 cards, we would have ended up making the nut flush. We would have ended up cracking pocket aces in that hand and scooping a huge pot, but as it is, we just lose another couple $100. So we're in the hole. There was a bunch of other hands where caller raised pre-flop and whiffed the flop, and we're down somewhere in the neighborhood of $750, I think. We lost about half of our initial $1,500 buy-in. And not only that, but I also moved down to a smaller game, which is normally the opposite of what a poker player, sometimes poker players would chase their losses in the bigger game. I moved down to the smaller game. But I think I will be moving into, there's a 1,000 spread limit game happening. Brad's in that game right now. And once he's ready to swap seats, I'll hop into that game. Might be tough to dig out of the 750 hole at this point, unless I sell enough. All right, let's go. Let's get back to it. All right, guys, we're back in action down in the poker room here, and in this hand of poker, we are playing 5-5 with a mandatory $10 straddle. Whoever wins the previous hand puts out the $10 straddle, and this is the 1,000 spread limit game. So you can bet up to $1,000, and then the next person can raise $1,000 if they want, so on and so forth, until all the money gets in that fashion. But let's take a look at this hand, where I open up King Jack offsuit from late position, and the small blind and I think the straddler make the call. So we go through ace to a flop, which comes ace 9-5 all diamonds. We do have the king of diamonds. So after they check to me, I think this is kind of a standard barreling, bluffing spot. We're going to be barreling multiple streets here. We also block strong top pair hands, such as ace king in particular. So going to go ahead and start barreling here on the flop. I bet $60 and both players call, so not the ideal result on the flop. Turn comes the 5 of clubs, so after they check to me, going to continue with our aggression here, blocking the nut flush, outs to the nut flush, and of course blocking good top pairs as well. So this time I bet $160. The small blind thinks for a little while, asks if it was a favorable flop. I do not reply, and then he folds. However, the straddler, after he thinks for a little while, he goes ahead and makes the call. So we're off to a river heads up, which does not improve us. It's a deuce of clubs, and he doesn't even give us the chance to go ahead and fire that third shell. He just goes ahead and leads right out for about $400. So pretty much takes our options away from us. I guess we could go ahead and raise $1,000 extra, considering that we're the only ones who could really have aces full. We have the king of diamonds, so we still block the nut flush. I just don't know whether anyone will actually fold strong hands such as a flush or like trip fives, or who knows what. He could even have pocket nines full. There's plenty of hands that he can call down with. So I go ahead and fold, but he shows us a hand that he would not have called down with. He shows us Jack 10 of hearts for the double reverse float, and then just gets it done with that lead out on the river. Magical. That's a fantastic play there. The good news is that this player felt so bad after he bluffed us out of our shoes and then showed the bluff in our faces that he went and bought me some pretzels. These are a North Dakota treat. That's where they come from. It says Pride of Dakota right up here, and I can confirm that they are fantastic. So I don't know if I would have paid, you know, hundreds of dollars for these like I paid in that hand, but I do appreciate it. I do appreciate these pretzels. All right, one more hand to look at here before hopping back in there. I call a raise with Jack 10 offsuit on the button. It's only $25, so we're fairly deep with a lot of players here in this game, and $25 raise is pretty small. So I make the call, and we are going 4 ways. This one comes down 10-8-7 with 2 spades. Action checks all the way over to me, and on a very wet connected board, I'm gonna go ahead and bet for value with my top pair, charging lots of draws and other things. I bet $55. The small blind calls, and the player in middle position calls. So 3 ways to a turn card, which comes a total brick. Very safe turn card. So after it checks over to me again, I'm gonna fire again, this time 160, 165, one of those. The small blind folds pretty quickly, and the player in middle position does not fold, he calls. So we are off to see a river card, which is an offsuit ace. He checks. Don't think I can get value from too much else at this point, too much worse that is, and I go ahead and check it back. He shows us the ace-5 of spades, however, so not running great. Things not really working out for me so far in this session. Haven't really made any super strong hands, and the hands that I have made, they've ended up being either second best on the flop or second best by the river, or we end up getting bluffed out of our shoes with, you know, king high when someone else has jack high. So, I don't know, I'm debating reading this book instead of playing this cash game. Greg Fossilman Raymer is here, and he gave me this book, and he signed it. Look at that. He inscribed it and signed it. So, I'm thinking about giving up cash games and taking up these tournaments. Maybe this will be the secret to some success. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens. I'm gonna get back in there.
I've actually been watching
Thanks, man.
for a while, man.
Thanks a lot.
I like it.
What was your name?
Nate.
Good to meet you, Nate.
Yeah, you too.
It's a wrap, elevator style. I can run you through a couple more hands real quick just to take a look at these. It's really late. It is 3:23 in the morning. In this hand, number 1, under the gun limps. Player on his left makes it $25. There's 2 callers, and it's over to us with red pocket kings. We go ahead and 3-bet it to $115. The small blind cold calls, and the player who had limped under the gun goes ahead and jams his short stack in for $125. Folds back over to us for $10 more. We call, and the small blind completes. So we are 3 ways to the flop, but there is side action heads up. The flop becomes pretty safe for the kings. It's 10-9-5 with 2 hearts. He checks, does the small blind. We go ahead and put out a bet of somewhere around $240, $240 or so. Small blind folds pretty quickly. I go ahead and show the kings down, and the turn is a queen. The river is a heart. The 3rd heart on the board. The 3rd heart is not good for us because the under the gun player has ace deuce of hearts. Sometimes you just feel the hearts coming, you know? So we lose that hand as well. I moved over to the other 1K spread limit game. That previous table was a must move. I eventually got moved into the main game. There was an interesting hand where I opened up King Queen offsuit to $35. Again, we're playing 5-5 with an automatic $10 straddle. So whoever wins the last hand puts out the $10 straddle. So essentially a 5-5-10 game. I make it 35 to go in early position. There are 2 or 3 calls before the straddler makes it $135. So we have King Queen offsuit. We don't want to flat out of position versus this player. We could fold, but we also have blockers to some good hands such as kings, queens, and ace king and ace queen. If I'm suited, I think I would just flat here. Be happy to go multi-way with that hand, but offsuit, I kind of like putting it into a 4-bet bluff range, especially since I open from early position, block lots of good hands, and I should be pretty strong here a decent percentage of the time. So 4-bet time it is. I make it $350 to go. And the player who is in the straddle, who had 3-bet us, promptly raises to an additional $1,000 on top. So that is kind of the story of the night. Just go ahead and fold after it folds around back to us. And just gonna wrap it up there, wrap it up here. I'm back in the room, get into the game for, I'm not even sure how much. I cashed out a pretty decent, healthy amount, but unfortunately I was in for more than that. Cashed out for about $3,080. I do not know exactly how much I was in for. I need to count all the money that I brought with me because I lost count at the table. That's sort of the thing that can happen when $100 bills play on the table. When you get stuck, it's easy to just reach into your pocket, grab several $100 bills, don't count them out, and just put them on the table. So I need to figure out how much money is left over here from the amount of money that I brought with me to South Dakota. I will put the amount that I lost right here. That's how much we lost tonight. It's a little frustrating, but it's not that big of a deal. I mean, it's definitely a little bit frustrating when, you know, it just goes on, and you're in a pretty good game. These 1K max spread limit games here at Cadillac Jacks, they're pretty good. There's some action to be found for sure, and it's basically, like I said, at least 5-5-10. A lot of times there was a straddle for $20. Sometimes there was even a double straddle for $40. So lots of action to be found here. I would definitely come back here. Maybe we'll be able to come back here during the summertime. I think that would be really cool. There's all sorts of hiking and outdoor stuff that I would love to partake in and get more time here. We're out of here. We're off to New Jersey. Lots of hospitality found here. Interesting trip. My first time to South Dakota won't be my last time. All right, next time I think we're due for some more run goods.